Our temporary studio anchor location tonight finds us really in the heart of the Strip on an uncommonly cold evening here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are at Caesars Palace. We are covering the statewide GOP caucus here in Nevada. I'm looking at the clock. It is 12 midnight in New York. It is 9 p.m. here. We are ready to make a call. NBC News is projecting that when all the caucus votes are counted, Donald Trump has racked up another state, another victory in the election train that keeps rolling on. Donald Trump, the projected winner in Nevada. There is his now victory celebration, his election headquarters at the Treasure Island Casino not far from here. Here is the way we can characterize the rest of the race. We can say only that Rubio leads Cruz for second. Rachel Maddow, this is notable not because it's a surprise, because it's another achievement in this race that has just stumped the punditocracy. Nobody predicted this a year ago.
This is, I mean, I'm so glad that we've got this live shot of the Trump headquarters as this crowd is absorbing this information. I mean, big picture here, we have got two people only who have won primaries or caucuses so far. Yes, Ted Cruz won Iowa, and Donald Trump got second in Iowa, but since then it was Trump in New Hampshire, Trump in South Carolina, now Trump in Nevada, and on to Super Tuesday. And most of the Super Tuesday states, Donald Trump is leading. This is a dominant performance by the Republican frontrunner. It'll be interesting to see who comes in second and how close that is tonight, but this is Donald Trump's race to lose.
Just confounding to what remains of the GOP establishment. There's the rest of the field. And one more reminder, while we have projected Donald Trump as the victor in Nevada, Rubio leads Cruz for second, and that is, I know this board shows something different, but Rubio leads Cruz for second in our latest count with 3% in, though they're one tick apart in percentage. To Katie Tur we go at Trump headquarters. Katie?
As you would imagine, Brian, the people in this crowd right now are very excited to get the news that Donald Trump is projected to be the winner of Nevada. As I said a little bit earlier, he's now won the Northeast, the moderate Northeast. He's won the religious South, and he's now won the far West. This is important when it comes to delegates, but potentially even more important when it comes to momentum. Donald Trump has projected himself as a winner since the very start of this campaign, and now he is proving himself to be winning 3 of the last 4 contests. It's important to note that even with that loss in Iowa, he did get a record number of GOP votes, save for Ted Cruz, more than Mike Huckabee, more than Santorum, those times that they won in the past couple cycles. So Donald Trump will be moving forward to Super Tuesday with a lot of momentum behind him. And with Marco Rubio potentially coming in second here, Ted Cruz is getting more diminished by each contest. It's now becoming even more important for him to win Texas. Recent polling is showing him up there, but Donald Trump does believe that he has a very good chance of winning there. He's been bragging about this to his crowds, saying that Ted Cruz is nasty. He believes those attacks on him are sticking. He believes that Ted Cruz firing the spokesman, Rick Tyler, was a bad move and it shows a weakness. And Donald Trump is now saying that he thinks that he could potentially win Texas, which would be, as you guys know, a devastating blow to Ted Cruz. There is even talk out there that Donald Trump could potentially sweep Super Tuesday, which would mean a whole heck of a lot of delegates, guys. The campaign feeling good right now, feeling positive, and just waiting for next week, essentially.
Unbelievable, Katie Tur. That would indeed turn the political world upside down. Chris Matthews watching and listening with the rest of us. Chris, in addition to everything we've said tonight, this is a candidate who is incredibly media savvy about when and where to appear. Last time he did this during Saturday night's victory celebration, he had already sampled the analysis, reporting on his victory. He already had his critiques ready. He watches an insane amount of especially television coverage, especially the cable networks, and is usually ready with his rebuttal all in a piece with his victory.
You nailed it pretty correctly. In fact, last Saturday night when we were all together, I pointed out along with Lawrence O'Donnell that if you added up all the opposition to Trump, if they all were peeled off from Bush and the rest of them and all went over to someone like Rubio, that would be a big challenge to Trump. Well, he didn't like that analysis, and fair enough. I still think that's an analysis that's at least arithmetically correct. However, what he knew perhaps then, and is certainly beginning to be true now, is they aren't getting together. There is not some coalescing of the opposition to Trump. What you're seeing tonight is, to me, and I've said this before, this didn't begin with Trump. This began before the 2010 election. And what you saw was this growing anger at the country's political establishment. It took root in the Tea Party, but of course it was bigger than that. All these members of Congress that came to Washington to vote against people like John Boehner. When you see the impotence of the Republican establishment tonight, again, what you've been seeing that for years now. People like John Boehner were thrown out of their jobs. People like Paul Ryan are not going to be powerful. What's powerful is the anger at the grassroots. You're seeing it tonight against this political establishment and more against the Republican establishment, which is almost defeated now. So Trump is the name for their pain. The right wing, the angry people of this country have been trying to find a leader. They have found one. His name's Donald Trump. He is the name for their pain. When he goes out there and makes fun of people's faces, of their politics, of their low energy, their very beings, their weakness. It's always their weakness he makes fun of. He is expressing the anger of this large group of Americans. It's not a majority. It's not perhaps even, I'll stick to this point, not even a majority of the Republican Party if you count them all as citizens, but it's the active part of the Republican Party. Just like Bernie Sanders is the passionate left, he's the passionate right, and boy, he is rolling over them. Bernie's still in a fight with Hillary. This guy looks like he's won the fight tonight, again.
Chris Matthews, thank you. To New York and Nicole Wallace we go. Nicole, Chris is right, as he often is, zeroing in on anger at the center, the kind of unifying theme here. The Trump phrase is "Make America Great Again." Assumption, implication that all we've been told before the Super Bowl all these years is wrong. When the eagle flies across the field, half the Super Bowl commercials start with that premise. It must be broken because he's going to fix it and return it to its prior greatness. Whatever it is, when Katie Tur says there's even a whiff of this guy taking Super Tuesday, it's a breathtaking notion.
Well, it is, but it is also the culmination of a 7-month campaign that has been waged, that we talked about. 17 people were in this race at one point. And when they have gone toe-to-toe with Trump, when the choice has been Trump and the entire field appears weak compared to Donald Trump. And I think, we talked for months about a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. Well, that phase is over. I think our hearts and souls have nothing to do with it at this point. This is now about our stomach. Can we stomach an ugly fight with Trump? You would have to get down in the mud to sort of wage a battle on his level because he fights dirty. But the very thing that may make some people in the Northeast corridor blush is what draws people to him. People look at Trump as the fix, as they think we have overcorrected in the area of political correctness, and they think he may be extreme. He is deeply flawed, but they think that he would bring us back to a more reasonable place. And this idea that all of his supporters are angry, all of his supporters support the ugliest thing he says, is really an unfair thing to label all of his supporters with. I mean, a lot of his supporters are simply in it for the shakeup.
Well, on the anger point, one of the things that we've seen in the entrance polls tonight is that over 90% of people turning out for this Republican caucus tonight in Nevada said that they were angry or dissatisfied with the government, over 90%. It'll remain to be seen how well that maps on to the support for Donald Trump in these results tonight. But in terms of how Donald Trump put together this victory tonight, Steve Kornacki has some of that data in terms of who Donald Trump won tonight and how sweeping a victory it was. Steve?
Yeah, we can take a look at all the numbers here at what the Trump coalition in Nevada is. Let's start on ideology. Those who call themselves very conservative, again, that's a big part of the electorate here. Donald Trump winning them over Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has been targeting this group of voters across the country. Not for the first time. He's losing it to Donald Trump tonight. tonight. How about somewhat conservative? Another large chunk of voters here. Again, a bigger Donald Trump win, 18 points. You see Rubio jumps up there. There's also moderate Republicans. That's a not insignificant chunk of the electorate. Donald Trump, look at that. A 30-point win. We've seen this before. Donald Trump, a lot of people look at him on immigration. They say this is the conservative candidate. He is actually doing the best, again, among moderate voters. Also, note, Rubio, he jumps up and down. He does a little better with moderates, not as well with very conservative. Cruz is jumping around. But Trump is stable. He's winning all those groups. He wins again. White evangelical voters. He did this in South Carolina. He's doing it here by an even bigger margin. This is another group of voters that the Ted Cruz campaign has been built upon. We can also look, there's a divide here. We've seen this before. College, non-college. Donald Trump has done better with those who don't have college degrees. Among college graduates, Trump does win tonight. Rubio does well. Among non-college, a huge win for Donald Trump. He gets half the vote tonight. Rubio, Cruz duking it out there. There's also this question of when did voters make up their mind? We can show you some interesting things here. Those who just made up their minds today, Marco Rubio actually did get a slight plurality of them. Trump, Cruz, also some votes there. The thing that will be the most encouraging for Marco Rubio, though, is this next one. Those who said in the last few days that they made up their minds. And look at this. This is basically since South Carolina. Rubio clearly winning this group. So this was what the Rubio people have been saying. They've been saying that since South Carolina, Republicans may look at this race and knew they will start siding with Rubio. There is some, and I don't want to overstate this because this is a very big Trump win tonight. There is some indication that some voters did give Rubio maybe a second look here in the last few days. That is something they'll take some encouragement from. But look at this other number. This was the biggest group of voters, those who made up their minds more than a month ago. This is half the Republican electorate today, and nearly 60% of them voting for Donald Trump. What I can't emphasize enough, looking at all these numbers, is that the coalition that Donald Trump has put together here, and we have seen this in the other states he's won, is within the Republican Party a broad coalition. This encompasses multiple groups of people, ideologically, culturally, demographically, the types of candidates the Republican establishment has been scared of in the past and have had to fight in these primaries were factional candidates. This is not a factional candidate. This is a candidate with broad appeal across the board in the Republican Party.
Wow. We're sitting here nodding at every new data point.
Yeah.
It's just such an impressive collection of numbers.
It is. Well, it's a very impressive win, is what it means. There is a little bit of bad, especially bad news for Ted Cruz in these numbers, and there's a little tiny glimmer of good news for Marco Rubio. I mean, the bad news, obviously, for Ted Cruz is like the problem he had in South Carolina, a guy who's built his campaign around winning very conservative voters and white evangelical voters. His margin amongst very conservative voters in South Carolina was troublingly small. He was only +6 with those voters, and he actually lost evangelicals to Donald Trump. If what Steve said is borne out tonight, and Ted Cruz tonight has lost both evangelicals and very conservative voters, both to Donald Trump, that's just devastating news for the Cruz campaign. The little bit of good news for Marco Rubio is that news that people who made up their minds in the last couple of days made up their minds most recently did break toward Marco Rubio more than any other candidate, and that's got to be a sign of real momentum, even if he still doesn't get close to winning.
At the same time, Elise Jordan, Lawrence O'Donnell here with us. The folks who decided a month ago that firm bedrock, we're going for Trump.
50,
when the caucus comes to our state, we're going for Donald Trump. And what Steve said about the broad coalition he has put together, this is just plain impressive for any politician.